finally I went over to her and I says, "Are you so?" And she says, "Yes." And we became good friends.
Mm-hmm.
And see, she was in the Army Air Corps.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And they wanted to send her across, but she had her say. She said, if they would have sent me to a decent camp, I would have gone across. But she said the camp they wanted to send her was terrible.
Mm-hmm.
So she could refuse it, the women. So they put her in the office and she was doing office work.
Okay. Okay.
And finally one day I was going around a little bit together. I asked her if she would marry me. And she said yes. And we got married by a rabbi out there.
Oh, okay.
In Oakland. We
Okay.
went to Oakland to get married.
Okay.
And the Army Air Corps sent her a woman and a man. They were both officers. So they were our best men, and we got married.
Okay.
She was a wonderful lady.
Okay. Okay. How long were you married?
Let's see.
He got married in 44, and Mom passed in 99.
Mm-hmm. She passed away in 99.
55 years.
Mm-hmm.
And we got married.
In 44.
Oh.
She was there.
Not yet. I was born a year later.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. How did you get to Michigan?
The trouble was we couldn't find a place to live. I was living with my folks and it was too rough.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to get a house in California,
Mm-hmm.
but we couldn't, there was nothing.
Mm-hmm.
We tried to get a Quonset house, nothing. So finally she says, why don't we go back there? She says, we got a place to stay and we can. So I came out here.
Okay.
And I got a job. I was a warehouseman,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I worked. I made up orders and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
lifted.
Mm-hmm.
And then when the stock would come in, I worked for A&P.
Mm-hmm.
And first I worked for Heinz, and then A&P,
Mm-hmm.
and I ended up with A&P. But Heinz was a miserable place to work. I just, they wouldn't get us the machinery to lift up the thing. We had to throw about 30, 40 pounds up 20 feet above our head. And you know, well, finally I got tired of it. But maybe it was a good thing because a year later they were out of business here.
No.
So I went to I would work. I finally got tired of that, you know. Not that I couldn't do it, I could do it. But so I went to A&P and they put me out there with a real test, a written test. And when I got through, I thought I had flunked it, but she says, no, she grabbed me as I was trying to go through the door.
Mm-hmm.
She says, no, you're good. Your test is very good.
Mm-hmm.
And so they pulled me back. She says, we got one job. Do you want it? I said, yes.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to work for A&P. That was the only job left.
Okay.
So I was a warehouse. I worked in the warehouse. And the first place they put me in was where the bottles came in, you know, the empty bottles.
Mm-hmm.
And all that, crates and stuff. In those days, they had these wire crates.
Mm-hmm.
Finally, I became a union steward there.
Okay.
I was a union steward for 7 years
Okay.
in this warehouse. And finally, I decided there's a nice job over at the other warehouse, and I had enough seniority.
Mm-hmm.
So I took it and I made up orders.
Okay.
And the sad part about that was rats. Oh my God!
Oh, damn.
Every time we pick up something, there was a rat flying up.
Yeah, why don't you talk about,
Oh, that warehouse, that A&P warehouse, they should have burnt it down.
why don't you tell about the time that,
And here's the sad part about it.
I'll be quiet.
Any dog that would come around there was dead. Those rats would attack it. And if you go out there and you see fur all over the place and bones, those rats were killing the dogs.
Wow, some tough rats, huh?
Oh boy.
Yeah.
What about the time that the
and
white people sat, remember when you always talked about the white people who were working were sitting on one side and the African Americans sat on?
So I went and sat with the African boys. I said, see, most of these guys were from the South that I was working with.
Yeah, just when you would with A&P?
I had A&P. And so I went over and sat with these colored boys. They were nice guys. And they didn't like me too much. So, but I said, I'm going to do the right thing, you know. And they liked me and I liked them. In fact, I go to a center now where I play bingo. It's a real mixture. And they like me. They come over and hug me. And these colored.
Sure, I got you.
Very nice people. You just,
Right.
you know, it's a shame. I like all people. I don't care.
Yeah. And what year was that? What year was that? What year do you recall? What year it was when you were
Work for A&P?
Yeah, when you were integrating.
Integrating?
Yeah.
Oh, I was.
What year was that? Do you remember?
45,
Well, that was.
maybe 47, 48,
Oh yeah.
or 50.
I think it was 40. It could have been 48 or 49.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
but it was. They were nice. We sat there and talked. But you see, here's the thing. When we went to a camp, and the colored people had their own
In the army.
companies and everything, their division. And so this was what was it? They had a picture of a derby, the blue derby.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And it was a terrific outfit because they went into Italy. There was outfits, and it was all uphill. But they took those guys, boy, and they wiped them out.
Wow.
They were good fighters, and see, it was all uphill in Italy. It was all uphill, and boy, when you have to go uphill like that, and they were up there, Germans sitting up in the houses and everything, up there with machine guns.
Right. Right.
But boy, they took them out of there.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, they were good fighters.
It was a good fighting unit.
Oh yes,
Buffalo
they did a beautiful
soldiers.
job with those tanks.
Okay.
But you wonder, you know, sometimes why people can't stand other people because of color or doesn't make any difference.
Right.
We're all human beings.
Right. Right. Okay.
That's the way I feel.
Okay. Good. All right. Well, we kind of covered a lot. We kind of covered a whole lot. Is there anything that you want to say that we haven't touched base on yet?
Didn't you say that one time the shelling was so bad,
Huh?
that the shelling was so bad that you lay down with the two guys on either side?
I told them they were dead.
Yeah. Once you
I was
talking.
in the middle. I told you about that.
Yeah. But you didn't tell it on camera. I think we were
Yeah, you were
outside.
outside.
Yeah, we were outside.
Well, what happened? A barrage was sent in. The Germans were.
But where were you though? Where were you on Normandy? Now you were in France.
No, we were in France.
Okay. All right.
And so we laid down by these hedgerows, and I was in the middle, and one here, and one here. Well, these two ended up dead, and I was in the middle.